Welcome back, Data Wizards. Today we're going to cover how to create tables, drop tables, update tables, as well as insert new records and delete records from tables. So come, follow me as we continue our SQL journey. For those of you that are just joining us, I'm Chris Gambill. This is my channel, Gambill Data Engineering, where I cover the concepts, tutorials, and demos to help you become a data master. So let's jump right in. We're going to start with a simple select statement. We're going to look at this DBO student table just to show you what data is in it. Because one of the first things we're going to do is create a dimension table for the courses so that we could split the courses from the rest of the facts. So in this case, we see that we have courses and names and student IDs, emails, and phone numbers. So we want to kind of split this up. Courses don't really belong with the demographic information of the students. We're going to create a separate table. We're going to start with create table. We're going to name our table with the schema. So we're going to keep with the DBO schema, which DBO you'll see often. It just stands for database object. So dbo.course is what we're going to name the table today. We're going to create a course ID that's of an integer type. And then we're going to create a field named course name. That's a varchar, so a variable character, with up to 100 characters in that field. We're going to say that this course name cannot be null. So we're simply saying not null. In addition, we're setting the primary key as the course ID. And you do that simply by typing the words primary and key with a space in between. And then in parentheses, enter the field that you wish to choose as your primary key. Keeping in mind, a primary key cannot be null, and it must be unique. And then we'll run this query. You'll see the command completed successfully, which includes the constraint for not null for the course name, and of course unique and not null for the primary key, which is the course ID. So that's one way that you could create a table in your database or data warehouse. Next step is we're going to remove that table. To remove a table or schema or any database object, it's simply drop and then the object type and then the name of the object. You could drop a schema as long as there are no tables in the schema. You could drop a view. You could drop a procedure. You could drop an index. Any of those database objects that you've created, you could drop using the drop command and then the name of the object. So here we're going to drop table DBO course. And we're doing that because I'm going to show you another way to create a table. You'll see the command completed successfully and we'll move forward. So this next piece is we're going to select into. And what that's going to do is we're going to select these fields from this other table into a new table that's going to be created as a result. We're also using a window function in this particular query, and that window function is rank. Window functions must have this over keyword, and in this case we're simply doing order by course. So it'll order it ascending alphabetically by course and provide a integer for each of the rows, and we're going to name that course ID. We're going to call the course name, and you'll see that we're getting that from the DBO student table and into a table that's going to be created while we dropped the table a moment ago. We're going to create a new table called DBO course, and we're going to group by course. You need the group by here in order to do the windowing function, because the windowing function is a type of aggregate. We're going to run that. It's going to tell you that 4 rows were affected, which means that it's created those 4 rows. We're going to come over here. We're going to refresh the database because I want to show you how it created the table. You'll see we have DBO course here. If you expand this by clicking the arrow beside it, and then expand the columns field, you'll see the 2 fields that were created. And in this case, you'll see the course ID is a big integer and null, and you'll see the course name was created as a varchar 50 and not null. You'll notice that this is nullable, which means the primary key was not created. And this field was only set to 50, which may or may not be enough characters going forward. When you do it in select into, SQL is going to determine those fields based on the information it has at the moment. It does not account for future growth or future records that may be inserted into the table. In order to change a table, we use the keyword alter. So you'll see next, we're going to go over quickly alter table. So you'll see alter table, the name of the table, DBO course, followed by alter column, because in this case we're altering one of the columns, and we're going to first change the course name to a varchar 100. We're going to run that. It'll tell you the command successfully completed. Next, we're going to alter table, DBO course again, and we're going to add constraint, and we're going to say course ID, and we're going to say primary key course ID. We're going to run that, and it's going to, you'll notice that you can't do that way. And that's because this field is already nullable. First, we have to alter the field so that it is not nullable. So we're going to say not null, and we're going to keep our int. You'll see that that command completed successfully. Now, we're going to add constraint. We're going to name the constraint pk underscore course ID. We're going to say primary key, and we're going to say course ID. We're going to run that, and you'll see that the command's completed successfully. Now, if you come back over to your columns, hit refresh, you'll see that the course ID is now listed as the primary key and not null, and the course name is now changed to varchar 100. So now we have a table in the format that we originally wanted. Few extra steps here. My general advice will be that you do your create table and then you insert those records that you need into that table. So these next steps, I'm going to show you how to insert records into a table. For this piece, we're going to use a few different tables. The city, state, and country. So I'm going to run these just so that you could see the city, state, and country tables. Also, you'll notice as I go through here that if you highlight a section of your code and hit run, it will run just that section of the code. If you don't and you hit run, it's going to try to run the whole script that you have on your screen. For this next section, we're going to use a different set of tables. You'll see the DBO city, state, and country, and these are the tables we're going to look at for this next section. So we're going to run those queries so that you could see the current structure of those tables and see the current data that's in those tables. They're not huge for demonstration purposes. So you'll see that the city has has 4 cities in it. The states has 3 states in it, and then the 2 countries, USA and Canada. So first, I want to add a state. We're going to run this query, and I'm going to add Chicago as a state to the state table. It'll tell me 1 row was affected. I want to add a city to the city table. I'm going to name Chicago as my city. We're going to run that. Oh crap. We added Chicago as the state and the city. Now I know that I did that, and I did it on purpose so that I could demonstrate how to do an update query. This is the syntax for an insert statement. So insert into the name of the table. And these are 2 different ways that we could do that. We could run a query. And so we could say insert into the name of the table and then say select the fields from the query that you want to select and then run that query. So in this case, we're using select as the statement, but we're actually just putting values in there. And you could do that at any time. You could run a select statement without a table in SQL Server. You cannot do this in other databases like Oracle. You have to say from dual, D-U-A-L. However, in SQL Server, you can do it without a from clause. So again, insert into name of the table, and then your select statement. You could do it this way as long as the fields that you're adding match the order and the number of fields that are in the table. Otherwise, you have to explicitly define what fields you're going to be setting the values for. So we could say for state, again, looking at the structure of the table state ID, state name, country ID. So we would say state ID, state name, country. And then again, the select statement. If I were to run this again, it would try to add that again, but it's going to give me a primary key error. You'll see that I have a violation of the primary key constraint. PK state cannot insert duplicate key. So the table, because of the way it was created, again, with a primary key constraint, does not allow non-unique values to be added to the table. Now, the next syntax in order to insert into is insert into, again, the name of the table that you're going to insert into. You can put in the names of the fields. It is good practice. It is not needed, again, as long as the number and order of values matches the number and order of fields from the table that you're going to be inserting into. Again, if I try to run this, because we've already done it, we're going to run into the primary key error. Now, we need to update that value that we just accidentally added as Chicago and change it to Illinois. So we're going to say update the name of the table, set the field name that we want to change, and we're going to say equals Illinois, and we're going to say where state ID equals 4, because 4 was the ID of the state that we added. We're going to run that. It's going to tell you one row was affected. If we look at the DBO state table, we will see that Chicago is changed to Illinois. So we have the anticipated outcome. So the update statement, again, is update the name of the table, set the field that you want to change equals whatever it is that you want to change it to. In this case, we're explicitly changing it to the word Illinois. However, you can change it to be another field. It could be a calculation. For instance, if you are updating all of your prices in a product table by 10%, then you could multiply the current product price times 10%. And then we're going to say where, and you could add, specific criteria to only update certain records in that table. Just like we did here, we said where state ID equals 4. Let's remove the fields that we just added from these tables. To remove records from existing tables, then we use the delete command. So we're going to say delete from. You'll notice that there's no place to put an asterisk or field names. It just goes directly from delete to from. The name of the table, so DBO city in this case. Let's try to delete the state first and see what happens. You'll notice that the delete statement conflicted with the reference constraint for FK, which stands for foreign key. The conflict occurred because of a foreign key constraint. Foreign key constraints are set so that you can't delete, for this instance, you can't delete a state that has cities associated with it. So you have to delete the cities first. So again, we'll say delete from DBO city where city name equals Chicago. Run that. You'll see one row is affected. Now that that foreign key constraint was resolved, we can go in and delete the state, and we'll say delete from DBO state where state name equals Illinois. Run that. You'll see one row was affected. Again, when we come back up here and we run the city and the state queries, we no longer see Illinois or Chicago in either of those tables. Let's go over one more statement that I want to talk to you about today, and that's the truncate table statement. It goes hand in hand with the delete statement. So truncate table will remove all records in a table. You can't use a where clause with it. It will just clear out the table. It's important that you only use truncate tables when you absolutely know that that's what you want to do. You do not do this on production tables. Generally, this is going to be used for things like staging tables, where you're moving data in to a table, doing some translations or transformations, and then pushing it into a production table. That's when I generally use truncate table. You don't want to do this on a production table unless that is absolutely what you want to do, clear out that entire production table. It will leave the structure of the table in place, but it'll clear out all records. So we're going to truncate table DBO course. But first, I want to show you that those records that we inserted earlier are in there. So we're going to say select from DBO course, hit F5. F5 is a shortcut key to run a query. You'll see that there are 4 records in here for the 4 different courses. Now, we're going to truncate the table. It completed successfully. You'll see it was extremely quick. We're going to run this select from DBO course, and you'll notice the table is empty again. Those are the 2 ways that you can delete and remove records from a table. And that concludes our SQL course for today. So, data peeps, if you're interested in the rest of our SQL trainings, be sure to check those out if you missed those. If you're interested in starting your Python journey, be sure to start checking out these videos in this playlist. If you're interested in making sure that you continue to watch these videos, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell icon so that you stay up to date on all of our trainings and demos so that you could become a data master.